Hey guys, what's up? RescueRyan521 here with part 2 of my top 50 favorite movies of all time. And as you guys know, in the last video we went through movies 50 through 40. And looking back, I made a little bit of a mistake. It should have been 50 through 41. It was just me being stupid, realizing, oh shoot, that's 11 movies, not 10. So to kind of even it out here so we can go by 10 for the future videos, we're just going to do 39 through 31, because we already covered 40 in the last video. So this video is going to be a little bit shorter than the other ones. But yeah, there's really not much else to say. Let's jump into number 39. So at number 39, we have Boys in the Hood. Now, this is essentially a movie about 3 kids living in the inner city, and it kind of follows them from childhood to their early 20s, and basically their struggle of trying to, get straight, trying to, live a straight life, but also getting roped into all this gang stuff, because they're surrounded by it, they live in the ghetto. This is a really well-made movie. Among the kids are Cuba Gooding Jr. and Ice Cube. And Ice Cube does a really good job in this movie. He's a pretty good actor. I mean, I will say he does some pretty good movies. And then, of course, you have Lawrence Fishburne playing the dad of the main character of Cuba Gooding Jr. in this movie, being one of the coolest movie dads ever. Just being really one of those wise old man types. Just a really great role by him. And this movie does have a tragic ending. I won't say what happens, but it's essentially, the classic story of, somebody trying to get out of this life that they're, but they just can't escape it. They're just constantly surrounded by it. And especially the one kid, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s brother, who is trying to get into college and everything. They're trying to get out of this life, but it just doesn't work out for them. They keep getting pulled back in. This is a really great movie. I gotta say, it's almost like a hood version of The Godfather. They're trying to get out, but you're pulling them back in. Yeah, this is a really well-directed movie for a hood movie, too, because usually, hood movies are usually good, but a lot of the times, it's just like a lot of, swearing and gang violence and everything. But this one tells a really interesting story, too, and I love it. At number 38, we have American History X. This is a really dark movie, I will say. This basically stars Edward Norton, who is a former neo-Nazi who's freshly out of prison, and he meets a black guy in prison that causes him to change his ways. He becomes good friends with this guy, and he essentially realizes all of his wrongdoings and is trying to correct his ways. Kind of like trying to be a good person and everything again, be a good member of society. But his little brother, who's played by Edward Furlong, who you guys might know as John Connor in T2, another movie that was up for consideration on this list. I love T2. He basically is following in the lifestyle of Edward Norton, and Edward Norton is trying to steer him in this right direction, but this kid grew up his whole life seeing his brother act this way. His brother's got like the swastika tattoo on his chest and everything, and he wants to be just like him. But throughout the whole movie, Edward Norton is trying to steer him in the right direction, and it's told in real time, and then it's also cut where it like shows Edward Norton's past and his experiences in prison and how he befriended this one guy. And once again, another very tragic ending, but just another really well-made movie with a great message too, and racism, and just a really very powerful movie. And the curb stomp scene is brutal. I will say that this movie is very brutal. So don't go into this thinking it's going to be light, 'cause this movie is hard to watch, but it is definitely worth it, because this movie is amazing. Okay guys, let's talk about a little bit more of a fun movie now. At number 37 is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This movie is one of Edgar Wright's best. This movie is an absolute blast from start to finish. It's almost as if like a movie were told it's like a movie in an arcade game just splatted together to make this really awesome comic booky action movie, with a great story and a lot of heart to it as well. Michael Cera does such an awesome, hilarious job playing the awkward Scott Pilgrim. Mary Elizabeth Winstead does a great job at playing Ramona Flower, the girl that he's falling for, and then all the evil exes too that he has to face to be with her. I mean, you got Chris Evans as the action star guy. You have the lesbian chick that he has to fight. That's probably the funniest fight in the movie, or one of them at least. You've got the vegan guy who's also hilarious. There's just so many, all the exes in this movie are such memorable characters, except for the two Japanese brothers at the end. That fight was a little dull. It kind of went by too quickly, but every other evil ex, Gideon, they're all just fantastic. They're all amazing. And this movie really does have amazing action sequences. I will say that. This is some of the most creative visuals I've ever seen in a movie. The way that it blends together, arcade action. It blends together like arcade games and like action movies. Like, it's like a perfect combination of the two. It's so much fun to watch. Like I said, Agnew Wright's fast-paced editing and visuals just make this such a treat and so much fun to watch. You're laughing every 5 seconds. It's absolutely hilarious. It's one of my personal favorite Edgar Wright movies, and I love it. At number 36, guys, we have Inglorious Bastards. Now, this is the first of 5 Quentin Tarantino movies you will see on this list. Inglorious Bastards is just plain awesome. When I first saw it, it wasn't one of my favorite Tarantino movies. It was actually one of my least favorite. I thought it was a little too slow moving. And while I will say, there are scenes where it does move a little too slow, like some of the build-up, to the bar scene where they're all playing the card game, you put the cards in your heads. I feel like a good 5-10 minutes of that scene could have been taken out. And then there's other scenes like conversations where characters are talking where maybe you could have trimmed it by a few minutes. I feel like if the movie was maybe like 15 minutes shorter as a whole, I think it would be a lot better, 10 to 15 minutes shorter as a whole. But nevertheless, this movie is still just a completely awesome experience from beginning to end. I love the way he rewrites history in this movie. Not going to spoil how, but the final act of this movie is so great. The sweet vengeance that they get at the very end. And everybody did such a great job, whether it's Brad Pitt with his really, exaggerated role as this really cool colonel, hunting Nazis, just his accent is great. Christoph Waltz as Hans Landa, just does such a great job. I'd say arguably better than his role as Dr. King Schultz from Django Unchained. This is probably my favorite role by him. And then just some of the others, some actors whose names aren't I can't really think of right now. But the guy that plays the Bear Jew does an awesome job. Just everybody comes together in this movie and just makes such a cool World War II stylistically made movie. And I gotta say, like I said, Brad Pitt is probably one of the strengths of this movie. I love him in this movie. He's so great. His accent and everything is just, like I said, it's awesome. Really fun, really great movie, and one of Tarantino's best for sure. He refers to this movie as his masterpiece, and I can definitely see why. This movie is awesome. At number 35, we have Goodfellas. Now, Goodfellas is, in my opinion, I think this is Scorsese's masterpiece. He's done some really great movies. He made, of course, The Departed and Cape Fear and all these other great movies. And he's one of the best directors, I think, in Hollywood. And Goodfellas is personally my favorite movie by him. It's just crazy to see this story unfold and to think, all these events actually happened. It's just crazy that you can see these mobsters go from being friends with each other to flat out murdering each other, 5 minutes later if they cross them. It's just really insane. It's a really cool look inside of the Italian mob, especially considering this is based on a true story. I think that element really helps this movie a lot, the true story element of it. Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro, they all come together to make this trio of awesomeness. And this is, in my opinion, the best mob movie ever made. I know I'm probably committing a crime saying that I think it's better than The Godfather. I don't know if I would say it's better than The Godfather, but in my opinion, I think this movie, I favor this movie over The Godfather. I think The Godfather, here's how I see it. The Godfather you watch for the performances. You watch it for Marlon Brando, you watch it for Al Pacino, you watch it for Robert De Niro if you're talking about part 2. You watch The Godfather for the performances. But I feel like in story-wise, I think Goodfellas does reign supreme. Godfather relies on the performances, I think, to carry the movie, whereas Goodfellas, I think, even though it does have great acting, I think it relies more on the direction and the story of the movie, the way that Scorsese directed it. So that's just how I see it. Like I said, they're both fantastic movies, but if I had to pick one, I had a gun to my head, I had to pick one. Goodfellas, 6 out of 7 days of the week. At number 34, we have one of the trippiest movies I have ever seen, Inception. This movie, once again, Christopher Nolan, just such an amazing director. I don't think I've seen him do a bad movie. Now, to be fair, I've not seen Interstellar, and I have not seen The Prestige yet. And there's a couple of other of his more obscure movies I haven't seen, but I've seen, all the other ones except for those. There's 4, I think, in total I haven't seen. I even saw Dunkirk just this last week. But yeah, this movie, this is my second favorite Nolan movie. I have another one higher up on the list. You guys probably know what it is, but I won't say it yet. But yeah, Inception is, like I said, such a trippy movie, you know? The effects, it's not even just the amazing effects. It's, you know, Hans Zimmer's score, combined with the effects, combined with the incredible star power of Leonardo DiCaprio, of Tom Hardy, of Cillian Murphy, of Marion Cotillard, of... I'm trying to think of who else is in this movie. There's a lot of people. Yeah, just a lot of great actors come together, and, you know, the way the story is told, the way you have to, like, really follow the plot, you know, there's so many layers to the dreams, and just this concept is just ingenious, you know. I'm surprised nobody thought of this yet, because, you know, it's such a, you know, going inside somebody's dream, and it's like, it really makes sense that you can bend the laws of physics and everything. It really gives you, he really gave Nolan creative freedom to do anything you wanted with the effects, because, you know, you're in a dream state. You pretty much can do whatever you want in your dream. So yeah, this movie is just really masterfully done. A really, really beautiful, touching ending too. You know, I love the ending to this movie. I like that it's ambiguous. I think that's a really, I kind of prefer that than them telling us. I like it when movies give us ambiguous endings like that. And then overall, yeah, this movie, and then that hallway fight scene is probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. I just had a big grin on my face the entire time I was watching that. The effects are just outstanding. I loved it. This movie is not only a huge achievement for special effects, but just for directing in general. And at number 33, we have The Usual Suspects. Now, this movie has a big twist ending, and the twist ending is really what makes this movie amazing. It makes it from awesome to amazing. Basically, this movie is about a robbery, robbery that has already happened. It's kind of told in, like, you know, in the past tense by Kevin Spacey's character, who's being questioned by the cops. You know, he was part of the team. He was kind of like a crippled guy that hangs behind, similar to, like, Lester in GTA 5, you know. He kind of, you know, helps with the planning of everything, but basically they're trying to get to the bottom of who is Kaiser Soze, the guy behind this, the guy that had all these men killed, all the men from this crew that you kind of learn more about throughout the movie. And, like I said, they're questioning Kevin Spacey, trying to figure out some more stuff about him. Kevin Spacey does a great job playing this innocent guy, or this, you know, like, not innocent, what's the word I'm looking for, helpless, you know, this helpless guy who's being interrogated the whole movie. You feel kind of bad for him. Chaz Palminteri plays the detective who's questioning him. He does a great job. Giancarlo Esposito, who many know as Gus from Breaking Bad, does a great job as one of the detectives. Benicio del Toro and all the other men on the team, they do such a great job. This movie is really well acted. And like I said, the last 5 minutes of this movie, when you figure out the twist ending, are just insane. Some of the most tense moments in movie history. You know, when you watch this movie a second time and you catch the little things you never noticed the first time, it's really, it makes for a really interesting watch. You know, it has great rewatch value, I will say that. So definitely check this one out. It's only like an hour and 45 minutes. Not a very long movie, but definitely amazing. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And like that, he's gone. At number 32, we have Captain America Civil War. Now, this is personally my favorite MCU movie. I think they did everything right in this one. Not only is this a great Avengers-style, Avengers teaming up and fighting each other movie, this is also a great Captain America movie. You know, it focuses a lot on Cap and Bucky's friendship. And it does a really good job, you know, with the big twist with Iron Man at the end. You know, like I said, I think most people have seen this movie, but in case you haven't, I won't say what it is. But there's something, Bucky, you know, is a part of Iron Man's past they never knew before. The fight between Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man at the very end is amazing. The airport battle is freaking phenomenal. Probably the best superhero throwdown in all of movie history. The introduction of Spider-Man was done really well. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He does a great job. He was one of my favorite parts of this movie. Giant Man was awesome. Like I said, that whole airport scene is just amazing. And this movie also deals with some really cool concepts, like, you know, superheroes being kind of a burden on the world and them trying to, you know, limit what they can and can't do. That concept has been done before, like in Watchmen, and even Batman v Superman did it earlier in the year. But I think this movie did it better than those two movies. Maybe not better than Watchmen handled that concept really well too. But when it comes to my personal taste, I prefer Civil War over Watchmen. I guess I'm just more of a Marvel guy I don't know. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. It is the best MCU movie we've gotten so far, followed closely behind by like the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, but this is still my personal favorite MCU movie, and yeah, one of my favorite movies of 2016 as well. And to close out this video, at number 31, we have What We Do in the Shadows. Now, this is a fantastic mockumentary. For those of you that don't know what a mockumentary is, it's essentially a comedy movie that's kind of made to look like a documentary, but obviously, you know, it's not real. Like, last year's pop star Never Stop, Never Stopping was a mockumentary. Best in Show is a mockumentary. This is Spinal Tap. Those are some examples. Those are all pretty funny movies as well. Actually, I have not seen Spinal Tap, so don't hold me to that one, but I've heard it's really funny. But What We Do in the Shadows is my favorite of all of them. This one basically, it was an indie movie. It was made in New Zealand for a very small budget. It stars like Jermaine Clement, who, if you know him, he was, I think, like he was the villain in the third Men in Black movie. Other than him, really not a lot of like really well-known actors in this movie. But it's essentially, it follows this group of vampires kind of living in a frat together, and each one of the vampires like represents like a different kind of Hollywood vampire. Like one of them is like the Nosferatu vampire. They take on a new kid. They bite like this new like 20-something kid, and he kind of joins their group, and he's kind of like the Twilight vampire. You know, he's like the new age version of vampire. And then you have like the Christopher Lee, you know, Dracula style vampire. So there's like all these different types of vampires in cinema, kind of like, you know, there's like takeoffs of all of them in this movie. Each one of these vampires represents a different era of Hollywood, I guess you'd say. And like just a really, really funny movie, honestly. Like just a lot of like smart humor too, not just dumb humor. There is dumb humor in this movie, but overall a lot of the comedy in this movie is just really funny, really smart, and I don't know, maybe this isn't everybody's taste, but just in my opinion, this movie made me laugh many times throughout. Almost every joke works in this movie for me. And I've noticed it grows on me. I've seen it, the more I see it, the more I actually like it. The first time I saw it, I thought it was good, but nothing special. After having seen it like probably about like 5, 6, probably even more times now, because I just watch it whenever it's on TV. I gotta say, this is one of the funniest movies I think I've ever seen, so I highly recommend you check it out. What We Do in the Shadows. I don't think it's very well known, but look it up because it is hilarious. So that concludes part 2, guys. Thank you for watching. I will have part 3 out very soon, which of course, now that we're back on track, will consist of movies 30 through 21, and then after that there's still 20 through 11, and then 10 through 1 to do. So I really hope you guys like this part. Let me know if any of your favorite movies were on this section of the list. Let me know what you think of the list so far, some of your favorite movies down in the comments, and I will see you guys back again for part 3. Thanks for watching, guys, and peace out.